Well, howdy, folks. Welcome back to the channel. Glad to have you. In this particular episode, we're going to take a look way back to 1972 at the March 721X, that driven by none other than Niki Lauda. Now, this is a Spark 143rd scale model. I believe this one actually to not be resin, but to be die-cast. I could be wrong. Comes mounted on this gray plastic base. Comes in this very old slipcase of Sparks that just basically says Spark on it. And has all the licensing and other information that you'd need to identify it if you wanted to buy it on the bottom. I've got to admit, when I bought this, I kind of took a chance. I'm fairly new to Formula One, and I certainly don't know anything about Formula One back in the 70s. I do know a little bit about Niki Lauda, which is what attracted me to buy this car. Anyhow, this particular car is a Formula One car designed, developed, and made by March Engineering for the 1972 Formula One series. Now, this particular car was powered by a Ford engine, and you can see that right there with those logos. A Ford Cosworth DFE 8-cylinder engine, which was generally a good start for this particular car. However, the Goodyear tires, and if you do take a look at these really nicely done wheels, you can see Goodyear clearly on it, that massive wheel in the back and the tiny one on the front, which never really harmonized with the chassis. The front tires constantly overloaded, causing understeer and oversteer. Drivers such as Ronnie Peterson, Henny Pescarola, and Niki Lauda could not handle it. In fact, Niki Lauda, in the colorful language that he sometimes used, called the car a complete failure, even worse, a stillbirth, and a debacle. I'm kind of curious if he had used such colorful language when criticizing the Ferrari. Could you imagine Enzo Ferrari having a stroke if he had? Now, seeing that the car was a complete failure, March built the 721G in just 9 days trying to save the season, but it did not work. Niki Lauda, in his first full F1 season, didn't score a single point. That being said, let's take a closer look at this car. Now, if you're used to all the modern Formula One cars, which I personally am, because that's basically what I have, this car is really neat. Take a close look at this nose. I'm actually going to pull this thing out forward and pull it up so you can take a close look at it. That front wing is mounted really interestingly on the nose of that car. Very, very cool. Somewhat unusual shape, but it works. Take a look at the suspension. That's something you don't see on today's modern cars. As I mentioned, you've got Ford on there. Obviously, you have Goodyear, those being the tire sponsors. You've got STP, Levi's, Champion spark plugs. Anybody remember those? Levi jeans, I know you remember that. And that pretty much wraps it up as far as sponsors. You do have Niki Lauda's logo there. If anybody knows what that is or what particular that references to, I'd certainly love to know it. You see it on his helmet as well. One of the things I thought was really interesting too, take a look at the mirrors and how delicate they are and how they're mounted to the chassis. You got really cool radiators on both sides facing forward. I thought the Niki Lauda figure in the cockpit is actually quite nice. The straps look good. You've got the white fire suit and you've got Levi jeans and everything on it. Really, really cool. Look at the big, huge opening, sucking air into that engine, which we're going to take a look at here in just a second as we move this thing around. And I thought they did a really good job, as far as I can tell from a little bit we can see, replicating that Ford Cosworth engine. Huge, massive rear wing on this thing. And when you take a look at the back, this is where it just really is just fantastic. Look at that amazing. And again, I'm going to pull this thing backwards because I got to pull it up so you can take a look at it. Look how delicate the struts are that attach that rear wing to the bodywork. I don't know if that's transmission there. You can see how the radiators and the exhausts, there are two of them. I actually have to set it down, then I'll pull it to this angle for you to kind of see them because they're not colored like you would see them on other Formula One cars. And I don't know if you can see the two of them, but they do jut out really, really nicely. I pull it to the side, and there you can see the other one on the other side way back there, and there's the other one on the front. Really, really cool. They're quite menacing looking. A very interesting car, extremely nicely done. And in typical Spark fashion, of course, you have Niki Lauda's name on the opposite side of it, so you'll know who the driver or drivers were. Anyhow, that wraps it up. Hope you folks have enjoyed this flashback to the past to 1972 with Niki Lauda's March 721X. Thanks for watching. See you next time, guys.